Hi folks, Rodney Creator from Programmers Institute here. The last time that I left off was when I introduced you to how to make an Android application using strictly Java, and we simply made a short little application that had a text box that said, check out my first app. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and modify this program and show you how to modify this program so that you have two text boxes. Well, actually, we call them edit texts that you type into. So you're going to type into two boxes and then press a button and calculate the result of multiplying the two numbers that you put in the boxes. I am not going to discuss right now handling exceptions or doing validation or anything like that. I just want you to get the feel of creating a particular program. Now, I apologize if I'm a little bit stuffed up. I am going through this head cold that we're all having in this area. Hopefully you can understand me. Anyway, on we go. What we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and leave this linear layout like we have it. This is a place where we can put things. Now, for instance, our text view where we put a label. In this time, though, we're going to create, instead of creating a label, I'm going to scrap the label that we've got here, and we're going to start a little bit differently than before. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and also get rid of what we've got here, and then we'll redo this one more time. Okay, now, what we're going to do is we're going to add two boxes that users can type into, and those are called edit text objects. So we're going to say edit text, just like that, edit text. I'm going to call the first one number 1 text. Alright, and then the second one, it'll be an edit text again, and it's going to be called number 2 text. And this is where we're going to place our two numbers. Alright, now notice we've got a red squiggly line here, and that means that we have not pulled in the libraries for the edit text. So let's go ahead and go Control Shift O, not 0, O. Control Shift O. That will automatically pull in the Java file that has the edit text class in it so that you can use the edit text. Make sure you guys are saving as we go along. I'm going to press Control S to save. The next thing that we're going to do, now that we have the two text boxes, is let's go ahead and let's actually create the text box or the edit texts in memory. Now when you do this up here, you're not actually creating the edit texts. What you're doing is saying there shall be an edit text called number 1 text, and there shall be an edit text called number 2 text, but we haven't actually created them yet. Now, when your Android program first starts up, the onCreate function here gets called. This is where they actually get created. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say number 1 text. Okay, it is going to be made from or made by creating a new, and we're going to use the new keyword, a new edit text. In other words, use the edit text class to create a new edit text called number 1 text. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a parenthesis here because this is called a constructor right here that we're calling. I'm going to say attach it to this context. In other words, attach it to this working entity that's actually working right now when you fire up the application. Okay, so it's going to attach it so that we can actually use it in our code. So now we have an edit text box here. We're going to create the second one just like we did the first one. So I'm going to do a little bit of a copy cheat here. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to put number 2 text here. And now we have two edit text boxes. now that we have the edit text boxes, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and place these in our layout. Okay, so now that we have our layout right here, we also made a new layout right here. As a matter of fact, we probably should throw this layout ahead of everything. That would probably be... I'm going to go ahead and Control X and put it right here. Control V. Give it a little space. Okay, so we've created the layout, then we've created the two text boxes. Now we're going to place the two edit texts inside of the layout. Okay, so layout 1, we're going to add a view. Now all of these different like edit texts, they come from a mother class called a view. Okay, so they're all considered what we consider views. They're way people can view information in a sense. So we're going to add a view, one view to another view, so to speak, or to a layout, so to speak. Okay, so we're going to add a view, and the view that we're going to add is number 1 text. Just like that. There. Now we've added that edit text box to the layout. And we're going to do the same thing again with the second one. Okay, this adds both of those edit text boxes to the layout. And we should see them up here now. We'll see one followed by, or one after another. Now I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you something else too. So we'll go ahead and we'll run this. I've got the emulator up and running. And I'll say yes. Okay, we'll run it in the emulator, and it'll pop up here in a second. But I want you to see something that you probably won't be pleased with, and I'll show you how to fix it. Okay, this layout, this linear layout that you got going, it does not understand how you want things laid out in your Android app. It's going to default to putting things horizontally, one after another. In other words, it's going to put the first thing here, then the second thing here, then the next thing here, then the next thing here, and the next thing here. It's going to put them horizontally. What you want to be able to have the things put in vertically. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell the layout that from now on, we want the layout to consider itself as a vertical layout. Okay, so we're going to say layout 1. Hey, layout 1. Okay, we're going to set your orientation. In other words, how things are orientated in the app. We're going to set your orientation. Let's see, set orientation. I'll just click on it. It's easy that way. Okay, now hang tight 1 second and look at the little notes that we've got rolling here. Notice how you can set orientation, but notice it's expecting a horizontal or a vertical as a perimeter. In other words, what goes inside these parentheses right here. You're going to put either horizontal or vertical, but there's a special thing you have to be careful about when you do this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and select it. And I'm going to put my semicolon there just to finish it off. Now, in this orientation, it's expecting either horizontal or vertical, but that horizontal or vertical is actually, it's a special variable that is a constant variable that doesn't change, but this special variable name, horizontal or vertical, you have to think of it. Now, you got to think of it. Which object in here is going to use that horizontal or vertical to tell it what to do? In other words, which one of these am I going to tell to lay out their layout vertical or horizontal? Well, I'm going to tell the layout to lay its layout either vertical or horizontal. This layout is a linear layout. That's where you're going to find the horizontal or vertical, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to type in here, linear layout. Okay, dot. There, you see that? Horizontal or vertical. So we want it vertical. So I'll go ahead and click there. In other words, what we're after is how to tell our layout, which is a linear layout, how to put in the stuff, either vertical or horizontal. So we actually have to say, hey, go to that linear layout class and look up the constant vertical and see what we're supposed to do. Okay, so I hope that kind of helps you when you're digging around for information. When you see those notes, make sure that you reference them in relationship to the object that you're actually working on. In this case, a linear layout. See that? Linear layout, vertical. All right. Now, maybe that kind of makes sense to you. Programmers who are really proficient in the field, maybe this explanation sounds like, you know, kind of weird. Don't you got to realize that people that are starting programming, they think differently than people that have been programming for a long time. So in our case, just think in terms of what kind of object are you working with. In this case, we're working with a linear layout, so we want a vertical constant that belongs to the linear layout class. Okay, so don't just type vertical because it'll throw a fit. If I do that, here, I'll get this out of here. Control X. Now, if I do that, notice it's complaining. It doesn't know what vertical means. So you have to put it in context to, or in relationship to, what class you're actually working with, which is the linear layout class. Like that. There. See that? Okay, so now it'll set these things in vertically. And I'll show you. I'll go ahead and save it. Okay, and we'll run it. Okay, and we'll say OK. And here it comes, and it's a little slow. There, see how things are vertical now, see that? You got your first edit text here and your second edit text there. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we need to put a place for a button right here we can click on to cause, so that we can cause the calculation. We're going to put a number here. Set. Notice here we got another problem. It's letting us put letters in. We'll fix that in a second. It's going to let us put numbers or letters here. But we want a button right here so that we can actually cause a calculation. It'll grab these two numbers. What we're going to do is I'm going to start out with multiply. We're going to multiply them together, and then we're going to have a label right here for the answer. All right. So let's go ahead and put in the button and the label for the answer right here. Okay, one after the other. And that's what we'll do next. We'll go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to declare that there shall be a button, and its name will be calc button. And so I'll call it calc button. Okay. Then we're going to say there shall be a text view, which is what we're going to use for a label. We can display text in it. There shall be a text view, and we'll call it, oops, and WER, their answer text. There. And we shall call it answer text. Now notice again, we have to press, what was the keystroke? The three keys, you go Control, then Shift, then press O. Not 0, O. There. Now that imports the three classes that we need. Okay, so now we can go ahead and create these three things. Notice the section right here I'm using for creating things. Okay, so I'm going to go down and go ahead and I'm going to make new ones. So I'm going to make a new, so calc button is going to be a new equals new, and it's a button, and it's going to belong to this particular context that we're working in. Okay, and answer text, it is going to be a new text view, and it's going to belong to this context as well. Okay, there we've created our essential elements. Now we need to go ahead and put them into our layout. So we're going to do that right here. We're going to add in the button. So layout 1 dot add view. The button, believe it or not, is a view as well. One of its mother classes is add view. Sometimes these pop-ups can get in the way. Add view, and we're going to add the calc button. There. Add view calc button, and same thing again. with layout 1 dot, we're going to add view, and we're going to add the answer text, just like that. Now, so that we can, that's right before we actually display the layout. We're gonna add these things to the layout. Okay, now right in here, I'm gonna do a little bit of our text, our answer, we want something to show up so we can see that the actual label is there. So I'm gonna go ahead and say answer text, set your text, or in other words, what's going to be viewed, to 0, just like this. Alright, there. Okay, so that's going to put 0 in that label, and it'll show up down here underneath the button, so we can actually see the label. So we'll go ahead and run this now, and I'll run it and save it, and say OK. It'll take a second, and it'll pop up, and you'll see all 4 elements. Notice here this is a button. Now, on this video, you probably can't see it really well, but it is a button right there. All right, and here's the answer label right here. So here's the 2 places to put numbers. Here's the calculate button, and here's the answer. Now, we're going to make these things look pretty later on, but right now, we just want them to be functional. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and this is going to be very sweet and simple. We don't want to fuss with too much stuff. We just want the thing to work. We want to be able to put in 2 numbers. Go ahead and click this button, then make it print out the answer. We do need something on the button. So let's go ahead and set the text on the button. We'll just say calculate, press to calculate. So just like we did right here setting the text, we'll do the same thing with the button. And we'll say calc button. Okay, set your text to the following phrase. Now notice I've got double quotes around this. Just like that. Alright. Now that's going to put press to calculate right there. Finally, now we want to actually cause, well, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and cause, when we press on that button, let's cause it to actually do the calculation. So there's a couple of things that you've got to do. Number 1, you've got to attach what we call a listener to this button. This listener's got to sit around and listen for somebody to click on it. And when somebody clicks on it, the listener then sends a response back to your program and says, hey, somebody clicked on that button. Okay, and here's how you do it. Okay, probably the simplest way for the moment to do this is I'm going to pop down here one more line. And I'm going to go, okay, calc button. Okay, calc button. I'm going to set an on-click listener. Okay, and I'm going to call this on-click listener by some name. You can call it whatever you want. So I'm going to call this on-click listener multiply clicked, because this is going to be for multiplication. Okay. All right. So we'll put press to multiply. That's what we'll put right here. Press to multiply. There. Okay, so it'll show press to multiply. When somebody clicks on it, what's going to happen is this on-click listener is going to call a routine, a handler called multiply clicked. And I'll show you how to make that handler. Okay, so when somebody clicks on it, this on-click listener goes, yeah, somebody clicked on the button. And it'll say, hey, handler, is there a handler around here by the name of multiply clicked? If so, will you please handle this problem? This person clicked on this button. Do something. Okay, and so that's what we're going to do. We'll go just like that. But notice we got a red line. That's because we have not created the handler yet. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and here, this function right here that goes from here to here, that's for when the application first starts up. So what we're going to do is make another function right below it. And now I'm going to add a couple of spaces so I can kind of kick this whole thing up a little bit. There. We're going to add another function right here. And it's going to be a private function. It's a private function, and it's going to return, it's a on-click listener, and it's called, we called it multiply clicked. So, okay, so this function is called, or method is called multiply clicked. Okay, so multiply clicked, okay, equals new on-click listener, okay, like this. Now, technically speaking, what we're doing is we're actually creating the on-click listener at this point. And notice also that I've got a couple of things going on here. First off, it's kind of, what we're doing here is kind of like we are creating an object, which we're creating an on-click listener, and at the same time, while we're creating the object, we're actually going to go in and dig inside of the class that has already been made for that object, and we're going to take and modify some of the code ourselves. So you're doing two things. You're creating an object, and at the same time, you're actually going to be calling a function, both at the same time. Anyway, for the most part, notice here you've got a red squiggly line, and what it's saying is there is a, if you're going to create an on-click listener like this, you have to actually you have to override or change the function that exists within the on-click listener class. And the reason why is because the function that's in the on-click listener class has not been set up to do anything. And you'll see that. I'm going to go ahead right here and I'm going to add the unimplemented method. Okay, there, right here. Here we are actually overriding that on-click method. And notice here, it doesn't do anything. Alright, because it doesn't do anything, it's kind of a useless function. So the on-click listener is kind of useless. And so what you have to do is create an on-click listener, and when you're doing that and creating a new on-click listener, you actually have to override one of the methods that's inside of that on-click listener class so that it'll actually do something for you that's worthwhile. That's the whole point of having the on-click listener, is so that when somebody clicks, it will do something. And here's where you put the code that will actually do something. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of things, and they all need to be done in order to make this successful. What we're going to do is to grab the two pieces of information out of these edit texts and convert them to strings. They have to be converted to strings. Now once they're converted to strings, then we'll convert them to doubles so that we can do math on them. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and do the math, and then we're going to go ahead and turn the double back into a string, and then place the string in the answer box. And so I'll show you. First, let's go ahead and make a temporary string. Okay, and we'll call it first string. Now you could do this all together at once, but I'm going to break it up into pieces so you get a better feel for what's happening. And we'll call this number one. Okay, so we'll say go to number one text. That's our little, where we're going to type a number, and get the text out of there. Get that text out. Alright, and then convert it to a string. Okay, so go to the edit text, get the text out of it, and then go ahead and convert that to a string and put it in a string called first string. Now because we're declaring this inside of this method, these variables we're creating right now will disappear when this method's done. And they'll get recreated again when somebody clicks again. Anyway, so now we'll do the same thing for the second one. So let's go ahead, grab the string, or grab the text out of the second one, and turn it into a string. So we'll just change these. So second string. So go to number 2 text box. There. And convert it to a string. So now we have 2 strings. Now we have to convert the strings to double so we can do math on them. So we're going to go double. Oops. Okay, so we're going to make a new variable called first number. And it's going to be a double. And we're going to call a special Java function, which is in the double class, called parse double. Okay, and we're going to give it that string called first string. Oops. There, like that. So, call a special function called parse double that lives in the double class. Okay, and give it first string. That'll be the first number we type in. So it'll convert that string into an actual double and place that value in a variable called first number, which happens to be a double. And we'll do the same thing for the second one. Okay? So we'll call this second number. Second number. And here, second string. There. Okay, now we've got them converted. Now we have 2 numbers we can work with. So let's make a third double called result. And we will take and multiply first number by second number. And the result of that will be placed in result. Okay, so multiply the first number by the second number and put it in result. Now we've got to convert result, which is a double right now, back to a string. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a string. So we'll create a string on the fly called result string. Okay, and we will then call another special function that lives in the string class, okay, called value of. Oops, I mistyped. Alright, so value of. And we will feed it that double. So, call a special function called value of that lives in the string class, and it will convert this double to a string. And then we'll place that string into a variable we just set up called result string. Now we can put the string back into our answer text up here. Okay, so answer text. Set text. So set the text for answer text to result string. In other words, place a copy of result string in the text for answer text. There. So, convert the two. Go grab the text out of the 2 boxes, convert them to strings, convert both strings to doubles, multiply the 2 doubles together, stick it in a third double called result. Then take that and convert the result to a string, and then put that string, the resulting string, into the text for answer text, which will show up right here. Long way around the barn, but that way at least you see everything that's happening. And you can kind of compress these, but I'm not going to get into compressing this stuff right now. So let's go ahead and save this. Okay. Alright. And we'll go ahead and we'll run it. And we'll see what we get. And one thing that you've got to pay attention to here is that we didn't put anything in there to prevent errors. So when we come up here, we've got to make sure that we actually type a number in here. So I got to click this like Oh, I didn't put, I gotta keep going. There. It's a kind of a pain. There, I got a 2 in there. Now I gotta come here and press a 5. Like I said, if you put an A, B, C, or some special symbol in here, it's gonna error on you, I guarantee, because we didn't put any safeguards in here. But now we've got a 2 and a 5. We'll press the multiply, and we get a 10. Voila! See that? Alright, I'm going to show you in the next video how to put in some safeguards in here and how to actually make this thing look a little prettier so that it actually, you know, doesn't look so gaudy. Anyway, but also we'll put the safeguards in as well. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps, and I hope it's useful to you. And y'all have a great day.